Hey there, Mr. Thayer from the Syracuse Academy of Science and Citizenship, back with another third grade math lesson. Today we're going to start Module 5, Lesson 1. We're going to specify and portion a whole into equal parts, identifying and counting unit fractions. Okay, so today we're going to get into looking at fractions. And I think the important part of looking at fractions is actually taking a fraction itself and looking at the numerator, which is on top, and the denominator on the bottom, and being able to read and understand what a fraction is asking us. So first of all, let's take a look at the denominator here. The denominator, it tells us the number of equal parts the whole has been cut into, okay? So in this case here would be 4. So if we had a pizza, we would know that the denominator tells us that there are 4 slices of pizza, okay? That's what the denominator is. Represents the number of equal parts the whole has been cut into. And on top is the numerator, that number 1. And the numerator tells us the number of highlighted parts, the number of pieces eaten, number of things that were left. So the numerator tells us what was left behind, and the denominator tells us how many pieces we have. Okay? So today we're going to walk through a couple of problems here. We're going to split some things up, and then we're going to work a word problem at the end to finish up. So the first thing I want to do is I want to take my problems here, and I have, let me turn this a little bit, I have halves, thirds, and sixths. So I just want to split those circles up. Halves, thirds, and sixths. So halves is easy, okay? Halves, we're going to split it in half, okay? We're just going to come right down that middle and cut that in half, okay? Slice down the middle. If I wanted to, I could also split across there, and that would represent half. So just cutting things into 2 pieces for halves. Thirds now. Now thirds is a little bit tricky. Thirds means we want to cut it into 3 pieces, okay? We want to cut it into 3 pieces. Now the thing that I don't want you to do let me make this a little bit bigger. I want to show you what not to do on thirds, because this will not work. Okay, if I have my circle here and I cut here and here, that is not going to make it equal because the side pieces will not match what is on the top pieces. So for thirds, can't do that. For thirds, we want to kind of put in like a peace sign. What I mean by a peace sign is this, kind of that little guy right in there. We'll put him in for thirds, and that will break that circle up into 3 pieces. So I come down to the middle here, and then kind of give it a leg, and give it a leg, and I broke that into thirds. Now there's 3 pieces there, okay? Here there's 2 pieces, there, on that one there are 3 pieces. I broke that into thirds, okay? Let's take a look at sixths. Now to look at sixths, what I like to do is I like to think about multiples, all right? And what times what gives us 6? And this is how I like to break it down. I know that 2 times 3 equals 6. So let's take that 2. So, all right, let's cut that. How can we cut this to give us 2 pieces? Yep, we can go right down here, make 1 slice right down the middle, and now I have 2 pieces. Okay, I took care of that right there. So 3. Now I have to cut this, each piece into 3 to give us that next part of the multiples. Which, so here, what I'm going to cut, how I'm going to cut this by 3 is I'm going to come right here. I'm going to cut it once. And I'm going to cut it twice. 1, 2, 3. Now I have 3 pieces here. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Cut it here. Cut it there. And now I have 6 pieces there. If I was to count these up, I go all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I cut that into sixths. All right. Remember, they're got to be equal. I know they look a little bit off with my picture here, but those are going to be equal slices. So like I said, like I showed you with the 3, we can't really just go through and make the marks. We have to make sure that we're breaking them up evenly. Okay, and making those slices. So that's halves, thirds, and sixths. Let's take a look at what it looks like if we were to switch it up and use a rectangle here. All right, so halves is easy. we could just come right down, like I said, cut that in half. If we wanted to, I could draw another one down here, and I could just go right across, and that would be acceptable as well for halves. Okay? Now thirds using a rectangle, we can't cut that up like we said it with the first time with kind of the piece side in there. With thirds, all right, we're going to make 2 cuts because we want 3 pieces. So when you hear thirds, don't think you're going to cut it 3 times. We're only going to cut it 2 times. We're going to cut it once. We're going to cut it twice because we want 3 pieces. 1, 2, 3. Okay? If I cut it 3 times, it's going to give us fourths, and we don't want that. So when we're talking about thirds, we're going to make 2 slices in it. And the same thing down here. I can come down here, draw this again, and I can go 1 slice, 2 slices, and that'll give us thirds. 1, 2, 3. 3 pieces there. Okay? So just remember that when it says thirds, you don't want to cut it 3 times. You only want to cut it twice, so that breaks it up into 3 pieces. So the same thing is going to apply with the sixths here, okay? We want to cut it. We're going to cut it a certain way, but again, I'm going to go back to knowing my multiplication factors in 2 times 3. All right, so I'm going to cut. So there's my 2. I'm going to cut it in half. All right, and now I got to cut this into thirds. So I'm going to make 2 cuts here. Cut 1 and cut 2. And now I broke that into sixths. Okay, so I did that. I took the 2, I cut that into 2 pieces, and then I drew a line, and I broke those into 3 pieces. So there's halves, thirds, and sixths. Today's just an introduction to. We're just kind of understanding what we have when we're dealing with fractions. All right, let's take a look at a quick word problem. And the thing I want to do is I'm going to break this word problem down using kind of the tape technique. I was going to use the number line, but I feel like the number line is a little bit more confusing. So let's see what it says here, and then let's break it down. It says Yuri has a rope 12 meters long. He cuts it into pieces that are each 2 meters long. What fraction of the rope is 1 piece? Okay, so I like to put my tape model out here. Put that down. Okay. What do we know right now? Okay, we know that he has 12 meters. He has 12 meters of rope. Okay, and each piece of rope is 2 meters long. So what that's telling me right now is I have 12 meters of rope divided by 2 meters. Okay, divided by 2 meters, which will give us 6. Okay, so we want to take that rope and we want to cut it into 6. All right, we want to cut it into 6. And again, I'm going to think of that 2 times 3. Okay, so first thing I'm going to cut that rope right in half. There we go. I used that. There's my 2 pieces. I cut it in half. Now I got to cut it into thirds. And what did I say about thirds? We're not cutting it 3 times. We're only cutting it 2 times. So I cut it once, cut it twice. There we go. I got my third. I come over here. I do it again. I cut it once. I cut it twice. All right. So I should have 6 pieces of rope right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Perfect. So they want to know how long each rope is. So this one is 1/6, 1/6, 1/6, 1/6, 1/6, and 1/6 because they're all equal. All right. So to put that into a fraction, 1 piece of rope is 1/6. If I was to break those down. Okay. Went pretty quick there. That's okay. We're just getting kicked off with fractions. We're going to practice them as we go. We're going to add pieces to it. But just understand the cuts. We really have to understand when to cut it. And like I said, when it says fourths, we don't want to cut it 4 times. We don't want to cut it 3 times. Or when we're looking at thirds, we don't want to cut it 3 times. We want to cut it twice so that we have the correct sections. That's a big misconception. It's something we have to really pay attention to. All right, head over to the exit ticket, check it out, and I'll give you some feedback soon. Thanks.